I'm just gonna make this intro as quick as possible to get it out of the way, since usually I overextend on these. I'm gonna be reviewing the Edge of Sleep TV show with Markiplier. Let's do it. I am not great at reviewing TV shows, so I'm gonna try to get this down as nicely as I possibly can without trying to mess up this review. So let's start off with the very first thing of what I thought between the podcast and the TV show. Now, I saw the TV show coming up a couple months ago in February. Actually listened originally to the podcast back in 2019 when it was coming out. Each episode was slowly coming out. I personally found the podcast great. I personally found the podcast to be like a really good podcast, and it was my only podcast before Distractable. That was actually the only podcast which I really got myself into. But now, what did I think about the Edge of Sleep TV show? Put all the parts together and it's essentially the movie. I personally thought it was fantastic. I mean, probably one of the better TV shows I've seen this year for Markiplier's first hand at a serious piece of work. It's fantastic. One of the best pieces of work that I've seen in such a long time. I mean, against other TV shows I've seen, like How I Met Your Mother, Sonic Boom, and so many others, The Grand Tour, which is also on Prime as well. I'm gonna try to go down with this as quick as I possibly can without trying to formulate myself of forgetting stuff. Storyline wise, I thought the story was very close to the actual podcast itself. There were some changes in the actual story itself, which I noticed. Not a lot of changes though, but the storyline itself, going from Dave, who's played by Mark, essentially has these dreams or basically warnings, and then once finding out what was going on with the entire world, essentially meaning like Linda and actually his longtime best friend Mateo, and even trying to get his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, I'm not really sure if it's a partner or anything. It's a case where I would say it's a it's an easy plot to get yourself formulated into, but in the same sense, it's like you would have to watch the show to understand it way more. But I like the show's storyline. Like, it was good. Like, even going into the podcast itself before the show even came out in 2019, I personally like that. And again, I'm not really great at explaining storylines. This is kind of one of those rare occasions which I really want to talk about, like a TV show or something. Some things which I did like alongside the storyline was a lot of what it had to go for. I mean, I know there was some stuff like probably the CGI was kind of, it wasn't perfect, but you gotta also take note that this probably didn't have a large budget either. So I will give him a pass on that. Acting side though, Mark did a very, very nice job for the acting aspect of the TV show. Like, honestly, he's going very well with the TV show, and that gets me curious about how he's gonna be in Iron Lung. Take note, he's not perfect, but first time actor as well, so you gotta really respect that. The other characters also did well in the TV show as well. I noticed there were some spots where other characters had great chemistry. Obviously, Dave and Katie didn't really have the same. I'm not going to spoil too much since I want to have people watch the TV show. And also, by this point, the TV show is already at top 9 on Prime right now, so that's hilarious. Some things which I did not like were probably just some, again, acting-wise, Mark there's some spots where it fumbles a little bit, not that much, but very much, there's very rare moments where it does fumble a little bit, but again, first time actor, I gotta give it a pass. One thing which I can kind of bring up though, is at least as far as I'm concerned, I felt like there were some slight changes with the actual story itself between the podcast to the actual TV show, which was, I'm not entirely sure this is accurate. Again, this is kind of my thoughts of how I remembered the show from the podcast. Take note, last time I listened to the podcast was back in 2019. I should have probably listened to the podcast originally, recently, before watching the TV show. I think, some of the stuff which I can bring up would bring spoilers into the actual TV show itself, so I don't want to spoil the TV show itself. Again, a lot of this TV show actually surprised me, especially Mark's acting capabilities, especially going from his channel itself, but also going into very much a serious role. You're doing a great job, Mark. I think honestly though, when it comes down to very much what is The Edge of Sleep, the TV show itself, I liked it a lot. Like, actually, it's one of my favorite, like, TV shows, probably, like, not, I wouldn't say all time. That's very much a very high standard. Against other TV shows I've seen recently, this is certainly towards the top, and The Grand Tour is essentially above it. I mean, I know people are gonna be like, The Grand Tour is a reality TV show, but gotta take note, I'm also a massive Cars fan too, which also I love that car that Mateo drives. I don't know if it's a Porsche or something, but I swear that's gonna be somewhat of an iconic car at some point. Meanwhile, I'm stuck here with a 1999 Chevrolet Silverado. Final thoughts, 8.5 out of 10. Actually, no. I originally was gonna say 8.5. I think it's more of a 9 out of 10. It's almost a perfect show. I know some people are not gonna like it. Some people are gonna say that this kind of defies or actually does injustice for the podcast, but personally, I thought it was great. It was a great show. Amazon Prime, though, was a weird choice, though. It was a weird choice, and I mean, nothing wrong with that, but in the same sense, Netflix could have been an interesting, like, also could have been a good one. But I love one of the comments under this Edge of Sleep trailer, which I posted a couple of days ago, is sees Markiplier, clicks as fast as possible. I guess I'll see you guys later when I don't know. If any of you want to watch more stuff on Markiplier, this is good. I made this earlier this year, and I might as well show it. Bye!